Are there still any truly bad cars? Well, it's an interesting argument because I was recently doing a podcast with my former motoring Middle East buddy who was in town, and it was just such a joy and so wonderful to catch up with him. And inevitably, we decided to do a little podcast together. And we had this discussion on there about cars and car reviews and what have you. And he made a very pertinent point, a very valid point about whether or not there are actually any car reviews anymore, or whether it's just, fluff, whether it's just advertorials, And he's probably right about that. But I also counter that with the point that, well, on the other hand, there are no bad cars anymore. And to be honest, this is something that I've been saying for a while, probably for about a decade I've been saying this now. And I feel that I have good reason and good justification for saying that, which I will explain. But I got called up on it. I got pulled up on it by people saying that that's not true. So I thought, okay, well, let's have a look at this and let's examine the concept that there are no such thing as bad cars anymore.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
So I have been reviewing cars. This is my 35th year reviewing cars. So I started reviewing cars back in 1989. And, I think definitely there was a time when you could very easily say, this is a brilliant car. This car is okay. That's a pile of junk. I remember reviewing cars back in the day where I was like, why would anyone spend money on this car? I remember reviewing cars where I would drive them along and I think, this car is about to kill me. That's how bad it was in terms of the handling, the setup, the rest of it. I remember not even that long ago, but even I would say a decade and a half ago, if that. What would it have been, 2000, maybe 2008 or something like that, 2009, something like that, where I was working at Car Magazine in Dubai. So I was the editor of the Middle East edition of Car Magazine, yes, the Car Magazine from here, from the UK. And Chinese cars were starting to come in. This was sort of very early days of some Chinese cars starting to come into the UAE market, Middle East market. And we got one in on test because we thought, okay, we better, see what they're like, So I think my deputy editor got one in. And we had it in the car park, and I said, well, throw me the keys. I better go and check it. I better go take it around the block, just for research purposes. And I went downstairs, found the car, opened the door, and just the feel of the door, and I opened it, and the smell, and looking at the plastics, and looking at the thing, just touching a few things, and I was just like, nah. I just closed the door right then and then, locked it, went back upstairs, threw the keys, and I was like, yeah, I ain't going to be driving that thing. That's how bad it was. That's the era of where you could say, yeah, I'm not even going to get into that thing, But since then, even with the Chinese stuff, the Chinese stuff now, the cars are coming out just like, whoa, it's just amazing, And the car that I missed the launch, I couldn't do it, I was clashed with something else, and probably the car I was most looking forward to driving this year was a Chinese car. Yes, it's badged an MG, but we all know it's Chinese, and it's an electric vehicle, was the MG Cyberster. I've seen it in the metal, and I've sat in it, and it was just brilliant, and I was like, I want to give this a go. So from going from the point that, like I said, decade and a half ago, where I refused to even drive it, to now where it was the vehicle that I was most looking forward to. So why am I talking about the Chinese vehicles? Because Chinese vehicles are sort of the youngest vehicles in the car industry. Most of the car industry has been doing this for 130 years. Even the Japanese have quite a long track record now of doing these cars, and their cars are impeccable. And then, of course, the Koreans have come on strong, and then their vehicles are just sensational now. In fact, in very many markets, they've actually taken over from the Japanese. So the cars are absolutely brilliant, and they're getting better and better. And I think the Chinese also now are on par and at that standard. So this is what I talk about when I talk about the fact that there is so much engineering expertise, there's so much experience. The industry has developed the perfect ways of creating these vehicles in such a systematic way that it's very hard now, and especially to create a bad vehicle, and especially when you think about all the data, the feedback, the research, the information that they have, and they put together and they bring together. They know what people want. They know the vehicles that people want. They know how to build the vehicles that people want. So it's almost impossible for them to build a bad car, I would say. Now, bad also has to apply in context, because I'm not talking about vehicles that you don't like. I'm not talking about the fact that I don't like that brand, or I don't like that vehicle, or that's not suitable for me. Like, as a motoring journalist, I have to put cars into context. So I can't just go, just the really cool cars are the only ones I like, and they're the only good ones. No, I have to look at everything, because I have to put the car into its context, into what it will be used for, into who will buy it, at what price point, how it will be used. So, you know, you look at something quite plain and ordinary, and that could also be good if it meets the price criteria, meets the criteria of the people that will be using it, and does everything it needs to do in a safe and proper way, then that's actually a good car. So it's not so easy to say it's a bad car. So in response, I posted on Facebook and I said, well, what do you consider a bad car? And a lot of people came up with various things, electric car, anything with an MG badge, which I disagree, because I've just reviewed the MG3, which I thought was fantastic. Last year I reviewed the MG4 EV, which I thought was brilliant, probably the one to have. Yang Wang U8, I think, but I'm confused about this, because it's Clive who said the truly badass car, over the top epic. So I'm not sure he's interpreted bad in the right way. I think he's interpreted bad as the Michael Jackson bad, i.e. it's awesome. So, which actually I agree, because I haven't driven it or seen it in the metal, but I did a video on that and I thought it was fantastic. Somebody else says electric one. Somebody says BZ4X. I've driven the car, I think it's really good. Any Tesla. Now, Tesla, I might give you a pass on that one, because I'm not a Tesla fanboy. I do respect Tesla for what they've done in terms of making electric cars desirable and sexy and interesting. That is a place in history that they've carved out for themselves, and they will always get the credit for doing that. But every time I've ever been in a Tesla, it's just felt like a prototype to me. It hasn't felt like a proper, finished, fully developed car. So in that sense, I would say, yeah, Tesla, and I've heard issues and stuff with the cars as well. So I would say that. Somebody says the finish of a Jaguar. JLR does have issues, let's be honest, but, you know, it's extremely desirable. A lot of people buying them, a lot of people using them. There's no clear image. So and there's 39 comments, there's quite a lot of comments, but there's no clear aspect apart from Tesla, the recurring mention of Tesla. There isn't actually anything really clear in that where people say that, yes, that is definitely a bad car. So I think that actually I'm not wrong. I think that I'm justified in saying that. And even currently, like, I think you can still get a Lada Niva, but I remember driving a Lada Niva. If you remember, Lada Niva is a Russian-built compact SUV thing, but actually a proper off-roader. I remember driving one in Dubai a few years ago, and yes, it was clunky, it was agricultural, you had to put effort into driving it, and it wasn't, you know, refined, it wasn't sophisticated, but I didn't really care, because it was hilarious and it was fun, and you knew that it was a tough little son of a bitch that would last forever. So in that sense, you go, okay, it's so bad, it's good. And, you know, historically you had cars which are so bad they're good, things like the AMC Pacer, for example. So there is an argument that actually maybe we need bad cars. Maybe we actually need bad cars with foibles and character traits and personality disorders and stuff like that to actually create more interest and excitement in the vehicles. I don't know, it's an interesting point of view. So I think I'm justified in saying there's no such thing as a bad car. Let me know what you think. I'm sure you will. I'll catch you on the next video. Check this out, guys. It's my book. It's my first novel, and it's written for car fans like you. It's a fun political action thriller. It's full of cool cars and spectacular action. Get your copy now at Amazon.com. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.